Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prose podcast. I'm your host, Tally Shamus, and today I'm joined by indie author KT Carlisle. We discuss pitch events, how to succeed as an indie, and stay tuned until the end to hear KT's hard and fast rule when it comes to social media. KT Carlisle is the pseudonym for multi-genre indie author living in Southwest Florida. She earned her BA in Writing Arts with a concentration in creative writing in 2015 from Rowan University, receiving the Excellence in Writing Arts Award, for which she was selected from a pool of 3,500 students, based on her exceptional skill as a writer and teacher of writing. Her work has appeared in publications such as Forbes, VentureBeat, Entrepreneur, Inc.com, and USA Today, to name a few. In late 2018, Carlisle started her own marketing agency, specializing in copywriting, website development, and social media management. She has 4 books available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever you buy books. Intuition is her newest psychological thriller, which releases this Halloween and is available for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever you buy books. Indie Pit is happening this October 3rd, and KTA Editorial is where people can go to learn about her editorial services. So, KT, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your writing journey and how you got here?
So writing has always been one of those things that I have just been obsessed with. Other little girls were playing jump rope or with their Barbie dolls, and I was binding my books by hand that I wrote and illustrated because, that's what a normal 5-year-old does. I remember as early as 10, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do with my life, and challenge me on it. I will make it happen.
And you did.
I did. I always said, I'm like, it doesn't matter what I'm writing. I could be writing the ingredients on the back of a cereal box and I will be happy as long as writing is what I'm doing. I've been doing it a long time, mostly copywriting and things like that, so like really boring content, HVAC stuff, plumbing, electrical, which is great as a thriller writer because I know a lot of clever ways to kill you. But I didn't really start to take the plunge into writing my first novel until 2 years ago. There's a lot of things that went along with that. Self-doubt, for sure. Not feeling like I was talented enough or good enough to even complete a novel. I think that's something that all writers at every level kind of struggle with, is like, even when after I wrote my first novel, I was like, yeah, I did it. Can I do it again? And then I did. And then after that one, I was like, okay, but surely I can't do it again. And then I did, and I'm like, okay, I guess I can do this. I write things. I'm a writer. That's what I do.
I mean, you've had fantastic feedback on your book, so it sounds like you're doing really well.
Yeah, shockingly so. Obviously, that self-doubt kind of never goes away, and I'm constantly in awe that anybody likes my books, especially being in the query trenches as long as I was, and getting the volume of rejection that I faced. I was like, man, I am not that good.
Well, this just, it shows that agents maybe don't always know everything and things work in the market. What have you done to get your books to readers, though, in kind of, this non-traditional path that you've taken?
It's been a real learning experience. I tried so many different things. I did the thing where I just threw a bunch of money at it at first because I had it to spare, and I was like, I'm going to take this chance on myself. I don't want to say that it's a waste, because even the things that fail help you because you learn from them. But, I sure do wish I had those thousands and thousands of dollars back that I put into trying to get my work seen, and it just not helping. I hired a publicist, and she was wonderful. I do question whether or not it was the right move for me, because truthfully, if I had just been a little bit more patient and put more effort into building my platform on Twitter, I probably would have had that same amount of success, if not more, because this past year has really showed me that you don't need to invest a lot in ads and things like that to be successful. It really does boil down to making social media like a second job for you. And I know that's kind of like icky for a lot of writers. We have these like ideas as creators where it's like, if you're selling your book as a product, then it's disingenuous, and if you're really good at marketing, then you must be like an icky kind of person. And I'm just like, I feel that, but also you gotta do something because otherwise, your book is just gonna die out there and you don't want that, right? You wrote this thing. Months, sometimes years of your life are invested into
Yeah.
this thing. Don't you want somebody to read it?
I've seen you try out different things. Like I've seen you go live on Twitter, which I didn't even know was a thing. So what
Yeah.
have you found to be most effective, most interesting? What strategies?
So it kind of changes, right? Because the algorithm is constantly changing. So that's something that you always have to be aware of and just trying out different things. What happened to me was I kind of fell into this trap where I was getting a lot of great responses if I just like took a selfie with my book and did a quick pitch with it and then posted the link as a comment below. That method alone got me close to 400 sales in like a month. But eventually people see that, they replicate it, and then the algorithm says, okay, what a lot of people don't realize or understand about these platforms is that they're not interested in you leaving them or finding ways to engage off that platform. Any posts that are designed to get you to go somewhere else, they're going to figure out what that is and crush it immediately. It's like chess, your enemy is like moving their little pieces around and trying to block you from getting that checkmate, and you're like, what do I do? How do I subvert them? I enjoy that kind of challenge. Like, ooh, somebody wants to silence me. How can I scream louder so everyone hears me? So it's a lot of like, playing around. I will say that it's been really challenging the past couple of months. So I'm still kind of like trying to figure things out. It really does help to just play with things and see what your audience responds to. And
Yeah.
then do those things on a regular basis, sprinkle in some other content that isn't about your book. Because I think that's where a lot of people struggle. You have this book, you're so excited to get it out there. You want to share it with everyone. And so you think, well, the best way to do that is to just constantly talk about my book. And like eventually somebody's going to click on this link or, buy it or read this review, whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do. But it doesn't really work that way because social media is very transactional and, it's a great way to get results for free, but you have to play the game a little bit. And you have to engage, you have to reply to others' posts, you have to like them, you have to engage, you have to, bring a little bit of personality. When I joined the platform, I was still with my abuser, so it was really hard for me to insert a little bit of personality into my posts, and because of the struggles that I was dealing with at home and the things that I was and was not allowed to share about my personal life. So it was really challenging. I still managed to do it somehow, but it's, there are obstacles, and I think a lot of writers, whether or not you're going through that, I hope to God you aren't, but the hesitation just stems from generally not wanting to be in front of a camera or things like that. There are other ways that you can introduce that personality, if you have
Yeah.
pets, they always, perform well and hear what you're reading, things like that. So, but again, like that engagement piece is really important because I think that as somebody who, not only does this for herself, but like I've had several social media clients, and one of the biggest things with them is they'll hire me to create content. And I will say to them, this is great. We can create the most spectacular, wonderful content in the world, but it's not going to do anything for you if you're not also logging on every day and interacting with people.
Yeah.
Because like, it could be the most viral, sensational thing, and it will die just because you're not doing your part in being engaged in that community. And I think that community is such a big part of writing because that is such
Mhm.
a singular, isolated thing that we do, and it can be very lonely. So, finding those opportunities to, build each other up and talk to each other and explore other ways to engage in our craft is something that's really awesome and that social media is really good at.
That's very true. And I think that, people get into this trap of chasing virality and wanting to post something that will get a million likes and reposts. But the thing is, if people don't connect with you, with your personality, I don't think that's necessarily going to translate into book sales.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that has to be your strategy. What is going to make people want to go and support me and pick up my book?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it can be really challenging for a lot of people, and I totally understand where a lot of people are coming from. They don't necessarily want to do this thing. They don't have the time to do this thing. And I'm like, hello, I work 4 jobs. I got a kid. I got 2 dogs. I don't have a lot of time for a lot of things, but I make time for the things that matter. And this matters to me. I want people to read my books. I want them to take something from this world that I spent so much time creating, and I hope that they enjoy it and that they get something from it. But
Yeah.
in order for them to do any of those things, I have to do my part and give them a reason to come and hang out.
Exactly, exactly. And I see you sharing advice across your platforms and trying to help others. So you had mentioned certain words that you shouldn't use on Twitter or whatnot. And I saw you post about that on your Indie Pit account, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And you
Yeah.
mentioned that you had gotten some mixed responses. So can we talk a little bit about that?
It's so funny to me, like you could be the most well-intentioned person and doing something that's purely just like, "Hey, I want to help you, like, cuz I've done this thing. I've kind of figured some things out. I want to share these secrets because like what breaks my heart, and this happens so often, pretty much like every single day. I'll scroll through my timeline and I'll see somebody's posts from like a day ago that got probably 5 likes and 100 views. And the only reason it failed is because it includes one of these trigger words. And these
Yeah.
aren't, small nothing accounts. They're agented authors, talking about their traditionally published books that are going out into the wild. And it's really an exciting time for them. And then their post just dies. And it's because they don't know that there are these like built-in challenges on the platform designed to silence you. And so the post that I put up yesterday on my Indie Pit account was really all talking about, how do I sell my books without using these words? Like, you can't say the word link. You can't include a link. God forbid you have a URL in your post. My goodness, that is just awful. The word free, the word book. Sometimes, you got to be careful with how much you use that. The word review is another one. Click, any kind of like call to action type verbiage, click the link below, or buy my book, or see the link in my bio. Bio is another word, you really can't say. Amazon, that's another one. My book's on Amazon. That's such a like innocent thing to say. Like, obviously you want to tell people where to go, but you kind of got to come up with like hobo code to talk about it, because otherwise your post's gonna get buried. So that's really all that was about. Some people took it like this is gonna be like spammy looking content, like littered with emojis and things like that. I'm like, no, really, it's really not. I'm saying that when you are marketing your book and you're including the other juicy bits, like what is your book about and the title of it and when it's releasing, ultimately you're going to get to a point in your post where you're going to have a call to action, because obviously that's how that works, and that's how you're going to translate, I saw this post on Twitter to now I'm on Amazon buying this book.
Yeah.
When you make that transition from introducing your concept to giving your audience a call to action, you need to be very careful about the way you word that call to action, because that is ultimately going to be a deciding factor in whether or not your post succeeds or fails. It sucks, right? Like, I hate it. I'm not out there like, yeah, this is like the greatest thing ever. The algorithm is awesome and we should all just be like celebrating it. Like, no, and it really isn't even a reflection on Twitter alone. Like, these are rules that are standard. You go on Facebook, you try to post those things. Good luck to you. Instagram, the same thing. TikTok, like, it's the same thing, because they all have the same goal, which is to trap you.
Yeah.
Like, they
Yeah.
want you there forever. You just have to be careful, and like, it does suck, and it can be very discouraging, and it can feel disingenuous for people who are not used to subverting algorithms like that and trying to come up with clever ways. It might feel like gross to them, like, this is like, I don't want to do this. And that's fine. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm just telling you the God's honest truth of like, this exists. This is the
Yeah.
way you beat it. Sitting there and crying about the rules of the game isn't going to help you win it. Sometimes, if you want to play this game, you got to learn the rules and you got to figure out how to beat your opponent. and our
Yeah.
opponent is the platform that we're on.
Right.
So we need to figure out how we can take those rules that it gives to us and then flip them on their head and win anyway.
And that's actually such good insight because, I consider myself someone that's decently well versed in social media. And I had no idea that words in your post, words that are as innocent as link in my
Yeah.
bio, could get your post
Mhm.
buried. That is such good knowledge. And I just
Yeah,
love what you're
yeah.
doing in terms of like spreading awareness about this. So let's talk a bit about Indie Pit in that vein.
Sure.
So what is Indie Pit, first of all, and what motivated you to start this initiative?
Oh, yeah. I love this. For those of you who aren't aware or don't know what a pitch event is, they are typically designed for authors who are seeking representation or agented authors who are looking for editors, they're on submission for publishers or what have you. They have like a 24-hour event where the feed is just clogged with all sorts of creativity and amazing pitches. But it's also really sad because, some of them might never get to see these books come to fruition. And so, for those of us who have gone the indie route and we do have those books available, like, what if we did an event where it was like, okay, you're seeing this fabulous pitch that you would absolutely buy. Well, it's there. You can buy it. You can go and get this book. And so I was like, okay, I want to do an event for indies because I'm an indie author. I have zero interest in getting an agent. And I always participate in the events that are for authors trying to get an agent because I'm like, well, here's a book you can buy. Like these ideas are all wonderful, but like here I am, and also you can buy this book. And like I just kind of use it as a way of like, hey, like I'm here too, and like indies still matter, and this is a celebration of art in general, and we don't have to be competing against each other, like I want this to feel like the community that it is. um so Indie Pit really was like an idea where I just wanted to celebrate the books that exist, and people can get their hands on. And then it kind of spiraled, and I was like, okay, well, that's great. But what if you're in the developmental stages still? What if you need an ARC reader? What if you need a beta reader? What if you don't want to self publish, but you want a small press?
Yeah.
So I kind of like roped in those categories too. So if you're an independent author and you're looking for somebody to, second pair of eyes on your work, there's a space for you there. If you're an author that is looking for a small press representation, there's a space for you there. So, and there are like several small presses that have expressed interest in participating in the event already. So it's been like really awesome to see how fast, because it really just was thrown together like last month. And then I got hospitalized, so I like couldn't even work on it. But the people have shown up for this, and so there is like an interest in that, and it's very encouraging. I'm really excited about it.
That's fantastic. I wanna ask you more about it, but first I just wanna ask you, how are you doing health-wise? Are you okay?
I'm okay. I am okay. So I mentioned that I was living with my abuser. And so for those of you who don't know, he did break my back in 2017. And it hasn't been the same since then. So pretty much every day of my life is like level 7 pain. About a month ago, actually, exactly 1 month ago, um, I went to go put on pants, and the action of me shifting my weight onto my left leg uh caused something, like I just felt this snap in my lower back, and I was just literally like I was home alone. I didn't have my phone on me, and I had to crawl to my office so I could call my fiance and be like, "Hey, you need to come home, because I'm in agony here." And so he came home. He was just like, "Do we call an ambulance? Like, what do we do?" And I'm like, "No, like it'll be fine. I've done this so many times. Like, I have flare-ups, and like all I need is for you to carry me to bed, and like everything will be okay. I just need to like lay down for like, maybe a week, and I'll be okay." And So then I like needed to go to the bathroom, right? And so I'm like, I can't walk there on my own. I need your help. So he like carried me. He does that. Everything goes fine. It's smooth, whatever. A couple hours go by. I'm like, hey, we got to do that bathroom thing again. And so he comes, and the minute he picks me up, I'm like, oh no, this is too much pain. And it's
Oh,
not because he did anything wrong. It was just because like all of a sudden I was like, oh, no, 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 no. And so
yeah.
he puts me down, I do my thing, and as I'm doing it, I'm like, I need to lean forward, like, I started to panic because I was in so much pain, and so I tried to tell him, and I'm like, "I'm gonna pass out." Like, n no sooner did I say that than I passed out fully in his arms, I was completely
Oh my
out,
god.
unconscious, and he, like, had to, like, drag me to the bed, and the next thing I know, I wake up, and he's got tears in his eyes, and he's, like, screaming my name, and he's like, "I'm calling 911, I'm calling 911." And it was so terrifying. So he called 911. I went to the hospital. I was there for about 4 days. It's kind of normal right now.
Oh my goodness.
It was just like really, really bad. So it's been a struggle to relearn how to walk using a walker. I graduated to a cane, and now I'm starting to walk pretty well in the house without the cane. But anytime I go out in public, I'm like, I need to have this with me. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Back pain sucks.
Yeah, back pain's awful. So my husband, a few months ago, we had a really bad ice storm and a ton of branches fell down all around our property. So my husband was out for a while picking them up. And so his back was a bit sore. But obviously then he comes inside, slips on one of my kids' toys
Oh
and
no.
falls on his side. So this is a 200-pound man. All of his weight just went onto his side. And we
Yeah.
think he herniated a disc. It was
Mm.
just 2 months of not being able to sleep in constant pain, and same with him, he couldn't get up. He was, like,
Yeah.
crawling, he had to crawl to his office chair, which is a rolly chair, and I rolled
Mhm.
him to the car and drove him to the hospital.
It's so wild too because my injury is almost a decade old at this point, but is really deformed. Like if you even look at my back with the naked eye, you can see like, okay, something's wrong with her back. But they were like, yeah, you must have just like torn a muscle or something because there's nothing showing up like bone wise that should be wrong. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's good. And also, like, it's crazy that it's 2025 and we're just guessing. Like,
Right? No, seriously. And it's especially, I feel, when it comes to women's issues or when it comes to problems that we have, it is very much an issue in the medical industry. But that's, I guess, another topic.
I was
But
just gonna say, I'm like, well,
oh,
that's a rabbit hole that I could jump right down, but we might not come out.
oh yeah. No, it's infuriating. Okay, okay, let's get back to books. But I'm so glad that you're doing better. I'm so sorry you had to go through all of that. That's
Oh,
truly
thank
brutal,
you.
but
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's gonna be a good day.
yeah. Definitely, yeah. So you've been jumping back into preparations. Indie Pit's happening in October, right?
Yes, October 3rd. It's coming up fast.
I guess let's rewind a little bit to your indie journey. How did you learn? I mean, we have so many kind of guides on how to query, how to write a query letter, a lot of information for traditionally published writers. I don't know if there's as much guidance for indie writers. I don't know, are there mentorship programs? How do you just get by?
Yeah, like I said, it's like a lot of trial and error, right? And it's so frustrating. Certainly don't make it easy. And I think what is even more despicable about it is the amount of vultures out there who are just like dying to prey on the
Yes,
people. When I was first getting started, it was a little bit less prevalent than it is now, but like how do I know you're not going to use AI to, do all
exactly.
these wonderful things that you're talking about? And it's like that's something I, don't want to be associated with in any way, shape, or form. And so it really is a big learning experience. So be prepared to fail a little bit. Yeah, I think the most helpful things come from that community. I've learned
Yeah.
so much more from following people on Twitter who have already done it and listening to their advice and reading their blog posts than I have from Googling anything. When I was Googling things, it was just like, it was so discouraging. It was almost like, that all the results were like, well, you could go this way, but your book's not going to be successful. And like, here are all the obstacles you face. And like, it's pretty much impossible. So good luck. I was just like, okay, well, shit. So I'm very blessed though in that I have a lot of built-in know-how because my dad was a graphic designer, so I have those skills already. I can design my own covers. I know how to format the covers so that they meet different specifications. I've worked at literary magazines. I understand what it takes to print something and prepare something to print. So I know how to use InDesign. I know how to use other tools as well. It can be really daunting for somebody who doesn't have those skills. So what I would say is, if you're thinking about going the self-published route and you don't have the skills to do all those things, save up and hire somebody who can, because it will be worth that investment. You don't have to sink a bunch of money into ads, but you should sink some money into an editor, a formatter, a cover designer, because those are the things that are going to matter most. What will this product look like? Because it is a product. How is it going to be received by the end user, the reader? How are they going to feel about having made this purchase? If they purchase your book and it's very poor quality and it shows, then those are the ones that, tend to fail, and it sucks because what's inside may be very good. But if it's improperly formatted or difficult for the reader to actually read, it's going to be challenging for them. If the cover is low resolution and isn't centered quite right, or all these different things, you'd be surprised that the kinds of things that people will leave a bad review on. I remember we watched Silo, and I love that show so much, and I didn't realize that it was a book series. And I went to go look it up, and I always love to see what the 1-star reviews are. And so I look up this book series, and so many people were complaining because they said that the box set had so much room in it that you could squeeze in another novella. Had nothing to do with the book itself and everything to do with the packaging. And I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy.
They need to have two different types of reviews. They need to have reviews on the content of the book and then reviews on the aesthetics.
Oh my God, for real. But it's crazy, right? Like, you don't think about these things because you think, especially as a writer, the book itself should be the thing that matters. The writing, the quality of the writing should be the thing that matters. And I 100% agree with that. The unfortunate reality that we live in, similar to what we're going through on social media platforms, is that is often not the case. That's not the only thing that people look at. That's not the only experience that a reader is having with your book. So you need to consider all those things and, kind of weigh your options. Is it worth it to you to have it be professional quality? I think it absolutely is for everyone. And honestly, the amount of time you wait and save and make it as close to perfect as it can be, as close to traditional published quality as it can be, it's going to pay off in the end. I know, like, a lot of us are impatient, right? We wrote this book. We want to get it out into readers' hands like yesterday and have everybody be celebrating its excellence. Totally identify with that. I have a book right now that I'm like, should I just, put it up on Amazon even though I haven't edited yet? Like, I'm just gonna do it. Let's just do it, see what happens. No, we're not doing that. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because the amount of time you wait will still be less time than if you had queried an agent, went on submission, went through the whole deal process to get a publisher and have your book out. That can sometimes take 2 to 5 years,
Yeah.
It'll take you maybe a year, if you're really diligent about it, to just put a little bit of money aside every month. Make that your book goal.
Yeah.
So if you're serious about doing self-publishing and you really want to do it well, why not do the things that will make it as successful as it can be?
Yeah, and I think that it's so important to distinguish because, like you said, the industry can be so predatory. There are so many people that will say, sign up for my course and you're going to get a book deal right away. And you need to distinguish between where your money is just going to be absolutely thrown away and where your money
Mhm.
is going somewhere where it's worth it and where to
Yeah.
find the people that will give you value for your money. So, to all our listeners, I've worked with KT and I would wholeheartedly recommend her. She's fantastic. If you're looking
Thank
for an
you.
editor, of course, oh my gosh, anytime. But it's so hard to find people. That's the thing. And so, I mean, I guess you can touch on this a bit more, but personally, I've found, of course, social media to be helpful, but also getting involved in writing communities in your community, meeting people in person that do this. And often, like, for example, I'm the chair of a writing community in my area. And a lot of indie authors join these communities because they are trying to find their audience. And they've had experience writing books, designing covers, formatting books, going through the whole process. They can talk about whether Amazon is the best place to publish your book or, the potential benefits of other outlets.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I've not explored that option. Obviously it's a little bit harder for me to get around in
For sure.
person to certain things. But I have gone to, I've done book signings at indie bookstores. They've gone, kind of meh. What I take away from them more than anything though is the ability to have those one-on-one conversations with readers, the ability to, because I shared a table with another author and just like, pick his brain about how he went about his own indie author journey. My fiance, Anthony, he's also a writer. He makes comic books mostly. He has a novel releasing October 1st. Um, but he does conventions all the time where he's
Yeah.
sitting at a table and trying to, sell his comics to people. You never know what you're going to learn. I think there's a tendency as writers that I've noticed that we all share this trait where like we want to think that we know best about things. Like, we want to be the one that just like has all the answers. But the truth is that we don't. And it's like, that's okay. That's totally fine. We're all
Yeah.
here doing this and we've all done it a slightly different way. So why not take a page out of each other's book and try to slap together a new one that works for us all, Like that's that's what I'm trying to do with Indie Pit. I really want it to be more than just like a pitch event and have it be a resource for people who are diving headfirst into these weird waters that no one really knows 100% how to navigate.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. And I think that if I could give a piece of advice to anyone that's going into Indie Pit or anything similar, is have a very concrete goal for what you want to learn or accomplish in your mind. A lot of times I've found myself going into these opportunities and thinking, I'm going to make friends, I'm going to learn, and you're kind of floundering because you don't know exactly what to zoom in on. But if you go
Yeah.
in saying, I want to learn which outlet is the best for me to actually publish my book through? That's a concrete question that you can get an answer on, and I find that's kind of a great way to approach these events.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's really important, with anything in life, to have a concrete objective before, like, even if it's something like super fun, like, my family and I, we just went to Universal Studios, and every day we're like, okay, what's the goal here? What are we most wanting to do at
Yeah.
this park? Everything else is gravy. But what is our goal? That's the way I just like approach life. Like,
Yeah.
tonight, what's my goal? I'm gonna
Yeah.
make dinner. That's my only goal tonight. If I get to the dishes, awesome.
Exactly. And I think that applies too when you're hiring someone to help you out. If you set a specific target, even let's say you want to get a publicist, right? You mentioned having
Yeah.
hired one in the past. So I think that if you say, I want to get a publicist so that I can get on podcasts, I think that that is probably more effective than saying, I'm going to get a publicist so that I get more book sales, because that's kind of so broad. It's so general.
Yeah. And I think that doing that exercise can help you identify whether or not you even need that thing to accomplish the goal. Because
Yeah.
if you sit there and you say, like what you just said, okay, I want a publicist so I can get on podcasts. Well, I'm on this podcast and I didn't get a publicist to make it happen. I just happened to talk to Tally. She said, I have this opportunity. Do you want to be a part of it? I said, absolutely. I've 3 podcast appearances this month just because I'm on social media and interacting with people, and I'm like, "Hey, you have a show? I wanna be on your show. Can I be on your show?" Sometimes we get overwhelmed, like, "I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I'm gonna do it the right way or this, that, and the other thing, so I need to hire somebody to do it for me." What certain things, absolutely, you should do that, like, for instance, like cover design, that's really important. That's, gonna set you apart from so many other books in the crowd. An editor, yeah, you definitely want to hire an editor and not edit your own books because you might be great at editing others' work, but you have blind spots to your own. We all do. It's just a fact. I always try to take a step back and say to myself, okay, what value are they bringing? Am I just being lazy and not wanting to try to do these things myself? Because the truth of the matter is, I'm probably just being lazy. And I can figure out a way to do these things myself. Having the confidence to take that chance on yourself and reach out to people who might be able to help you can go a long way too. With my debut, I was absolutely nobody. I had, not even 500 followers, and I reached out to Morgan Shamey, the author of The Stricken, and I was like, "Hey, I just read your book, The Doll Maker. I thought it was amazing, and I have this book that I wrote, and would you maybe be interested in reading it and like giving a quote for it?" And she said yes. She said yes, and she
That's
loved it, and
amazing.
she gave me a quote for it, and literally, like, 2 months later, she was on the cover of Publishers Weekly. She, like, totally took off, completely well-deserved. She's amazing. Go buy all of her books. They're all fantastic. But it's just, like, little things like that where, like, you feel like you're so small and you're not worth it, and you don't have the right communication skills, or you're not approaching this person the right way, or, like, it's not gonna work out for you because, like, who are you? You're just, like, this little nobody, and I had all those thoughts, and it still worked out for me. I think there's something to be said for taking that chance on yourself and at least trying to do it yourself first.
It's a great strategy. And I mean, it does take a lot of work. How many hours do you spend on your social media a day? And you're just on Twitter, right? Primarily?
Yeah, I'm only on Twitter. Truthfully, I don't spend a lot of hours on Twitter. It's like little moments here and there. I treat Twitter like a reward system. I have all these different projects that I'm working on at any given moment. And so when I get done with a project for the day, or like, that chunk of the project for that day, then I'll go on Twitter for 5-10 minutes and interact with my friends. And that's my little reprieve where I'm like, okay, I need to like reset, recharge, and then I'm gonna go tackle this next project. Sometimes I'll like slip into the void and I'm like, oh my God, where did that half hour go? Why like where
Yeah.
am I?
So that's something I wanted to ask you about because I think a lot of us use social media as a reward. But, I'm going into my socials when I'm already tired and I just want to turn off and I end up just doom scrolling. So, how do you make your social media usage productive where you're interacting with people and replying rather than just kind of scrolling mindlessly?
Yeah, I set a rule for myself a long time ago when I first joined is like I'm only really going to interact with the things that I've commented on and this person is commenting back. Or, somebody commented on my post and I comment back to them so that I'm having that kind of like positive interaction of like, every now and then you'll get somebody who's just like cranky and wants to take it out on you and you're just like, okay, well like go take a nap. But I try to not go on Twitter and just scroll. My timeline has been great so far, and I think it really has to do with the way I use Twitter. Like I
Right.
just mentioned, like liking and interacting with the things that I've already chosen to interact with. So then, naturally the algorithm understands, oh, okay, these are the things you're interested. I'm going to show you more of that. With all the craziness going on in the world the past week, especially, it's been a little bit of a challenge to log on, and it's just, a lot of hate and negativity, and it can be really discouraging and upsetting. So during those weeks where it's like, really volatile and, high intensity, I won't scroll. So my experience on Twitter because of that is a lot different from what a lot of other people are like, oh, my timeline's screwed because like all I'm seeing is like hateful politics and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, how many hateful political posts have you interacted with recently?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even something as simple as clicking on a post to read the comments is going to tell the algorithm, even if you didn't like it at all and you didn't comment on it, the algorithm saw that you clicked through on that post so you could, spy on, all these different comments. So it's going to keep giving you stuff like that. I learned
Yeah.
that the hard way, so I even stopped doing that. Like, even like if something caught my attention, I'm like, "Ooh, I want to read more about this." I like fight the urge. I'm like, "No, no, no, hard pass." Writing
That's
only.
awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's a great strategy. If you really want to be able to just doom scroll, make a second account, right? I think that a writing account should be focused on writing. And I completely agree. I'm trying to be a professional author. And so
Mhm.
I want my outlets to reflect that. I want my outlets
Yeah.
to reflect my writing, the books I'm reading, my tastes, what I like. I don't want them to reflect things that are outside of writing. That doesn't help me in any way.
Yeah. I think that that's like an important approach to take, and it'll really help enhance your experience on whatever platform it is that you're on. These things exist wherever you go online. And so I think taking a more proactive approach to it and saying to yourself, okay, I want my account to reflect this. So if I engage with content that also reflects this, I'll have a better time on this platform. I think it's also probably a good practice to only be online during the day. Like there's a hard out for me around 7 o'clock at night. I'll still be getting tons of notifications, and I'm like, I'm not responding to any of these. I'm not even going to acknowledge that they exist because I need this time for me and to just unwind and be with my family and doing family things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important, setting those boundaries. I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, it really does.
Yeah. Well, Katie, thank you so much. This has been such a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so good to talk to you, and I love what you're doing in the community. I always see your posts, and your podcast is awesome. So I'm just like I'm honored to be a part of it, and just excited to be here.
And thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of the Pros podcast. Remember to check back every Tuesday for a brand new episode.